And what it appeared to them was a kind of destitute urban carnival.
My name is John Thornton, and I'm a semi-professional filmmaker who was asked by the Projects Gallery to make a movie about Northern Liberties. Some of my filmmaking techniques may appear unorthodox, and if indeed I were an amateur, it might almost look like a mistake. For instance, there are shots in which it appears that my right index finger is on the bottom of the lens. Now that's a classic amateur mistake, but when you're a pro, you do things like that on purpose. It's true that the night before the shoot, I had been awakened by a vomiting drunk in South Philadelphia and was severely sleep deprived. But exhaustion does not explain why my finger is so artfully placed in the frame. Rather, it is to accentuate the theme of this film, that in Northern Liberties, the individual person for centuries has enjoyed the freedom to carve out a life for himself.
There's something about the Liberties, the name inflected into the people and into the landscape itself, that I think makes a kind of cycle that continues today. You walk up there, we're now a solid 30 years into the process of what we would sort of obliquely call gentrification, right? It's been going on a while. You walk up there now and you can still feel as if you're in a bit of a wilderness, and that there's still something that you can make out of it.
How long have you had this business?
We've been open for about 3 weeks now, 3.5 weeks. So.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. A lot of people like the service.
It's a great idea. I've never seen something like this.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, hopefully the dogs will like it.
Are you enjoying yourself, young man? I think he is.
The Northern Liberties has a unique relationship to the city of Philadelphia because, in fact, it was sort of the city's first suburb.
Nathaniel Popkin is a Capitol Fellow, and he explained to me in detail the early history of Northern Liberties. William Penn, that guy who so famously loved Indians and furry animals, founded his green country town, aka Philadelphia. But he forced people to buy 500-acre lots and had plenty of rules and regulations. Since many folk didn't like this, he also made kind of a suburb north of the city called the Liberties. You could buy land in much smaller plots in this Northern Liberties. Eventually, all kinds of people moved in, like Henry Derringer, starting businesses and generally having a more tolerant and live and let live approach to the pursuit of happiness than those sad folk in the city. In 1854, the Liberties was merged into the city, but ever since then, it's retained a bit of its original character.
Drink for 12 hours, work for 12 hours. Living the dream.
Rise and fall, until in the 1970s, it's a basket case. David Lynch famously referring to Philadelphia as the
sickest place he'd ever encountered. That's that moment. And some artists who couldn't afford Old City, which was about to gentrify, moved a mile north to the Northern Liberties, and they found a place that was uniquely strange, but where, like in generations past, they could sort of set themselves down and do what they wanted. They could purchase a piece of property for a few $1,000s, and they could live cheaply and make art.
I've been told by a semi-reliable source that the artist Ira Upin lives in this bakery, making donuts and art for half a century.
In October of 1976, I was living in New York City, And I had some friends who were living in Philly in the Old City area. I had a little money I had saved up working in New York, and I thought maybe I could buy a building, get something started. So I came from New York on the bus. I got off at 11th Street and I walked down to Old City. I looked at a number of buildings, but they cost like $40,000. I just kept walking north. Got to Spring Garden Street, came into this sort of desolated area where there were some businesses, but there wasn't a whole lot of residential. I went into this little real estate office around the corner, and this man by the name of Henry Rapp showed me a few spaces. He showed me whole buildings, and I said, well, how much are these? He said, to rent? And I said, yeah, to rent. $100, $125? I said, for the whole building? He said, yeah. And he said, but if you have any money, it might be smarter to buy something. And I came upon the building on North 2nd Street that I eventually bought. I walked in, I liked the big space of it. It was an 18th century building, it had a lot of character, had not been lived in for 40 years, but had been used as a business on the first floor. I said, well, how much is this? And he said, well, the owner wants $10,000. Would he take $8,000? The guy said no, and I said, well, why don't we meet in the middle? So we ended up at $8,500. I signed a piece of paper, I walked out the front door in a daze because I realized that I had just sort of bought a building.
Well, gentle viewer, are we jealous yet? $8,500 for an entire building? On the other hand, there were downsides to being part of the urban renewal. The first day Frank started working on his new home, it was broken into and all his tools were stolen. So one of the techniques that many of these urban pioneers used was to keep the outside of their homes disheveled looking, boarded up plywood, that sort of thing, while they worked feverishly to update the insides. This dissuaded criminals from breaking in, and it also kept the city officials away in terms of raising their property taxes. But there were other problems facing these urban pioneers that made the greed of burglars and bureaucrats seem petty in comparison.
I moved into the studio when I got out of art school in 1978 with another sculptor. We're the only people in the building, everything else was empty, and the rest of the block was empty. We fixed it up ourselves. There was no heat or plumbing or anything else, and we put everything in. I've had this as my studio since then. And then in 1988, my husband and I bought a house on American Street, just a few blocks away. And we lived there for several years. 1990 was the first fire of the American Street Tannery. That was the first of, we counted 14 suspected arson fires. The entire area was full of very heavy, toxic smoke, and we had to leave. It was a super fun site. We had a very young child, and we didn't want to breathe all the toxic fumes, and we had to leave our house.
Hey guys, and you're a professional
Dog walker.
from?
Love City Pets.
Is that a growing business?
Oh yeah, dog walkers are actually, they're like everywhere right now, but our company's new. We just started in January. I was doing it on the side for a long time, and then me and my husband just decided to open our own business, and it's been going pretty well. Northern Liberties really has a lot of great businesses on it. Fishtown's actually an up-and-coming neighborhood. There's a lot of businesses moving down there. So it's great. Between there and here, you never really need to leave, you know?
All right.
What are you doing here, man?
I'm making a movie. Now, this is a noted sculptor who is now, are you also a professional dog walker? Or is this your own dog?
No, I'm an amateur.
Oh, okay.
I don't get paid for this.
No, don't you have some amazing murals someplace?
There's some murals in Bar Ferdinand.
Bar Ferdinand is really good.
My name is Owen Kamihira. I've been a resident of Northern Liberties for 28 years. Raised my two sons here, and the neighborhood has changed a lot in the last 7 years. I've decided to take part in the change. So
When did you open your restaurant?
This restaurant 5 years ago, and El Camino was opened a little over 2 years ago.
Wow.
Things are good. This is it's still a very nice neighborhood to live in.
Your house is near here too, or?
2 blocks away on 4th Street.
Oh, that's nice. Not too long of a commute, I guess.
Not much of a commute, but then again, I can't get away from work either.
Now, are you related to the legendary artist Ben Kamihira?
Ben Kamihira was my father.
Okay, because you look quite a bit like him, and I see you have a lot of his paintings around.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Owen. Good luck.
Take care.
What are the sights to see in Northern Liberties?
There's the Liberty Lands Park.
Okay, I'll go there.
It's really a very good site.
Hi, my name's Julie. We're in Liberty Lands right now. It's our local park, and the one thing I really like about it is that it's actually owned by the neighborhood. I actually got it from the city. We paid off the taxes and got it, so it's one of the only privately owned parks in the city. Which is why you can look around and see really cool things like giant logs for the kids to climb on, and just kind of different play structures. We have a children's garden, so it's one of the things I like about the neighborhood.
How long have you lived in Northern Liberties?
12 years or so.
And are you a working staff or a stay-at-home mom, or?
I'm an artist, so I work and stay at home at the same time. And then I nanny.
Wait,
and I nanny lots of kids on other days.
Are you a nanette, you little girl?
This is my nanette. You live around here?
Yeah, I do.
Do you like living in this neighborhood? Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty nice. The whole neighborhood's shifted. It's good and bad. It was changing in really good directions, and then we had the evil Bart Blatstein that came in.
And what did the evil Bart Blatstein do?
He came up and bought up a lot of the neighborhood and changed the demographic completely. And then we lost a lot of our wonderful old Ukrainian neighbors that could no longer then afford the property value in there.
So it got gentrified, is that a case?
Completely gentrified.
Really?
So now when you look around, we've got a lot of younger white people with SUVs.
When the twilight is gone.
Speck on the lens. Don't worry, we're going to examine the evil Bart Blatstein in more detail in a few minutes. But first, Julie has a suggestion which may allow us to find out a bit more about this new demographic.
Across the street is the dog park. The neighborhood bought that land, and all the developers go crazy because it's a huge plot of land.
Is to linger with you.
Hi.
Good boy. Good boy. It's okay.
Is this a welcoming community, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that right?
Despite his barking, he's actually a very friendly dog. Aren't you?
How long have you been here?
About 4 years.
What drew you to this neighborhood?
Young, vibrant, active community. A lot of people same age, same interests.
Are you some kind of computer geek or something like that?
No, not at all. I'm in sales. I work from home a lot. It's a good place to go out and grab lunch or coffee somewhere, bring my dogs around the neighborhood, and it's very, very pet-friendly neighborhood.
Do you go to bars or?
Of course. Sonata and Koozie Doo are probably my 2 favorite restaurants. Standard Tap and North 3rd. 700 Club is always a good time.
And is it a pretty well-educated population moving in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a lot of the artist type as well as young professionals.
So it's kind of like Beverly Hills 90120 or
90210.
whatever.
I don't think I would go quite that route, but it's definitely a young and up-and-coming area.
Okay, can we get another shout-out from what's your name, young man?
Calvin.
Calvin?
Yeah.
Where's Hobbs?
Exactly.
I have this notion that a city is really, any city is a ruins, and all we do is we come in and we adapt to that ruins, and we build on that ruins. The ruins may be a physical ruins like we're all used to thinking about, but it also may be the ruins of an idea.
Dreamed of all the different ways I had to make her glow. Well, why are you so far away? She said, why won't you ever know that I'm in love with you? That I'm in love with you.
Anyone visiting Philadelphia's Northern Liberties section will soon wander upon two extraordinary outdoor spaces, Liberty Lands Park and the Piazza at Schmidt's. Both are focal points for the community and accommodate outdoor socializing. But the differing ways the two sites were developed speaks volumes about the complexity and contradiction inherent in this amazing neighborhood.
When we lived on American Street, we were right across the street from the Burke Brothers Tannery, which actually was still in business as a tannery when I first moved to Northern Liberties. But it closed within a few years, and the only part of the building was occupied was one corner called Disc Makers, which was a business that made records, and later they made CDs as well. And then they moved out, and the building was empty, and people would go in and start little fires, but it never burned down, I guess because it was so huge. A lot of neighbors had wanted to have it made into artist studios or senior housing or something that would be of use for the neighborhood. And the city moved in and demolished it. I guess they decided it was unsafe. And people were really devastated by the loss of this potential wonderful place. I guess the developers donated the land to the neighborhood association. Dennis Howe had the idea for making this into a park, and people worked for years cleaning it up and planting. And there's a big mural there, and it's now a beautiful park that everybody in the neighborhood uses.
So they turned a really toxic waste site into a green space, and that's what you see here. It's really awesome what they did.
Listen to Northern Liberties Neighbors Association board member Don Phillips talking about the aftermath of the demolition of the tannery. By the way, since the neighborhood owned the tannery, the city charged them for the demolition to the tune of $500,000.
So here we were stuck with a rubble-strewn lot that we owed a lot of money on. And the board at that time decided, well, let's continue with the development ideas. And that's the way we could recoup some of the money and pay it back. And we again began looking at senior citizen options and how do we use that land the right way. At that time, Dennis Haw, who was a resident of Northern Liberties and an artist, came up with a different idea. And he said, let's get some money and turn it into a green space. And that caused some friction in the neighborhood because the board had decided to move along one route, and here was Dennis, and he had several supporters who felt we should not go that route. Let's not develop the land. Let's clean it up and make it into a park. And there were a couple general meetings that were quite exciting around that subject. And I have to say, I was one of those people who, being on the board, took the board's position that, no, this is what we've decided to do. Fortunately, I might add, Dennis's approach won out. And the end result is right now we have one of the most beautiful common spaces in the city that's owned by the neighborhood, and it really has become a social center for the neighborhood.
I'm Janet Finnegar. I am one of the two coordinators of Liberty Lands. I help run the park, and I'm one of the founders of the park. Part of the group that built the park in the first place.
Are you friends with Dennis?
Dennis Haw, that's right, who painted the mural and we call him the father of Liberty Lands. He's the guy who had the idea in the first place.
I just find him sort of heroic. This is such
so
a beautiful...
do I.
How would you compare Dennis Haw and Bart Gladstein?
That's not a fair comparison, really. Dennis has been a Northern Liberties neighbor 20, 30 years. I don't know how long he's been here. He's an artist who has ideas that grew organically out of living here that are about where he lives. And Bart is somebody who's, it's not a secret, he's making money. That, he's a developer. His role is to make money. So he's somebody who came to a place and recognized that there was a lot of good going on here and has contributed and gotten back his own out of that.
Is the judgment of the long-term residents that the piazza is a net plus?
I refuse to speak for all the long-term residents.
But for yourself?
For myself, I actually get along just fine with Bart Blatstein. One of the things that I always say about the piazza is it's not the place where I go and hang out, but a lot of people do go and hang out there, and those are people who aren't hanging out on the lawn and messing up the lawn. And when there are as many thousand people in the neighborhood as there are now, we need more than one big open space. So I'm psyched that there's another public space that serves different functions and can take those people who are interested in those different functions.
Oh, no, we're going to look at a nearly dead pigeon.
That guy is 90% gone.
Oh boy.
And
now,
we've got the cover over him because he's not at all happy.
Should you just bash him in the head with a brick?
It's quite possibly what I'm gonna do because I feel bad.
Yeah, I think
once I know he's suffering, I don't want to leave him suffering, and it's not like you can save a pigeon.
Right.
So that's probably what I'm gonna do.
Okay, well that's why you guys are tough, but you do what needs to be done.
Tough but fair.
I'm not going to actually film that.
I really appreciate that.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
The piazza is built on the old Schmidt's Brewing Company that used to make beer. And this is one of the water towers that existed here a long time ago. The developer, Bart Blatstein, who developed this area, Tower Investments, chose to put this back over here so that it represents what this place used to be. I've been living in this area for 3 years now.
What makes Northern Liberties special?
All the people here. You're not in the city, it's a city within itself, and also there's a lot of parking.
How is one supposed to think about the piazza at Schmidt's and its developer, the evil Bart Blatstein? Bart Blatstein got his start as a shopping center developer, and he has now become this legendary figure in Philadelphia because of his transformation of Northern Liberties and other areas of North Philadelphia. The piazza at Schmidt's, in my opinion, is like the ultimate exclusive college. It's got everything a young person could possibly desire. All the amenities. Plus, you don't have to go to class. There are no exams. You simply pay your money and you engage in partying, drinking, and quite likely some sex. What's not to like?
It's a wonderful place to live if you're 25 years old now, and that wasn't always the case.
But once you're past that 20-something age group, you're not going to want to live there. You move out and another person moves into your apartment. And that's the key to the success of the piazza. You can't buy these units. You can only rent them. So when one group of 20-somethings becomes a little long in the tooth, maybe they want to settle down, out. In comes the next group of party hardiers.
Now, of course, I realize that my cynicism may be unfair. Nathaniel Popkin agreed that you could look at the piazza as a Melrose Place for 20-somethings, but that there was more to it than that. He told me that the neighborhood rejected a bunch of Bart's plans before a vacation in Italy got him thinking in a new way.
He came to see the public spaces in Italy, which of course are renowned for their gracefulness, for their sense of proportion, and he came back and said, I'm going to build a piazza in the Northern Liberties on my Schmidt's land. He had in mind recreating, in a kind of almost Disney way, the look and feel of an Italian piazza, but which would make no sense out of context. Happily, he encountered a pair of very smart modern architects, Dave McHenry and Scott Erdy, who have a firm that's located in the Northern Liberties. They convinced him that you can't take the ruins of Palmyra and rebuild it stone by stone in Philadelphia. That's not the way you do, but you can take the idea about it. To me, it's a reflection of these ideas that were passed down, of a social place, because the piazza is enclosed with apartments all up above it, and a place in the middle where people can see and be seen, and they can live in public. First of all, it's not public space. It's a carefully controlled, private space. It's open and anyone can go through it, but it is not at the center of the city. Yet I would say the architects did such a good job thinking about massing of the buildings. It's a successful place. You have farmers markets in there and you crafts markets in there, and you have an enormous widescreen TV that invites people to watch old movies or the Phillies. What it represents, what feels like a new idea in Philadelphia, that the city is a place for pleasure.
So let's see if I can get in. It's really hot today. I'll take a dip in there. Oh, that seems to have jammed the door somehow. I can hear throbbing disco coming from the pool. Oh, if only they'd let me in. You are
a worker at Arrow Swim Club.
And who belongs here?
Only members. Very exclusive place.
And they keep the riffraff out?
Absolutely.
Is there like a hotness test that you have to pass?
Yeah, I think so.
No kids?
No.
So there's constant...
There's a bar, so they keep it, you know, gets kind of rowdy sometimes.
Is it like constant Adult Swim?
Kind of.
Okay.
A little bit.
Is there any kind of canoodling in the pool?
No.
Okay. You sure about that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, that one would be...
No.
No. Okay.
Good.
Thanks.
Yep.
What happens when people have kids here? Do you have public schools that you send the kids to, or?
That's a good question. I actually don't have kids.
What are you going to do?
My husband's just here doing his residency, so we might not even be in Philly. So I'm putting it off and denying it and not thinking about it. There's parents that are working, you know, with the school to get it
better,
up to par, but there's a lot of parents I know that are looking to either move out to the suburbs or paying for
private schools. Oh man,
it's disappointing because I feel like I would love to support the public school, but I can't have my child as a pioneer. Like, it's his future.
This is the great. What's your name, sir?
If I was that great, you would know.
I know. This is Larry Friedman, the mayor.
There you go, Larry Friedman.
This is the mayor of Northern Liberties.
Yeah, not so great, Larry Friedman. Thank you.
No, Larry, where are we headed?
We're headed to Kearney Elementary School, where my son Jesse is in the 4th grade.
Now, what kind of parent are you sending your kid to a Philadelphia City public school?
On the list of things that make me rotten, that's probably low on the list. Because I beat him in the morning. We don't feed him until the afternoon to just keep his energy level down. Since he doesn't have a bed, he doesn't tend to sleep a lot. So therefore, when he gets up in the morning, the day starts perfectly, where he
Okay, no, but there's the school.
There it is, right there. It's a fantastic school. It's the place that people in the neighborhood started sending their kids about 5 years ago. Before that, everybody I knew that had a child, by the time they were 3 years old, was like, okay, well, we'll see you, we're going to the suburbs. Now, we have a good option. It's a great school. It was probably always a good school. So actually, I think we're probably good parents because they've got great teachers. They really love the kids. The parents now are saying, hey, let's send our kids here. Not only that, but let's make it into a great school. If there's things that we can work on to improve, let's do that.
This is the wonderful school ever. You learn new things every day. The teachers are nice, everybody friendly, and we got a good principal.
How's that pigeon doing?
It is so dead.
What did you bash him with a brick? A brick?
Yep.
Can you reenact it with a cupcake?
No.
We found out a long time ago you want people to enjoy where they're living. And if they enjoy where they're living, they stay, they become good neighbors, and they get involved in the neighborhood, and that creates this positive energy. Kind of that's our theory, is how to create good neighbors, because good neighbors make a good neighborhood. And I think we got a pretty good neighborhood now.